Hey everyone, I warmly welcome you all to channel Career File. So this is the first time I'm coming in front of the camera on this platform and I was pretty nervous though, but I motivated myself, so here I am. And it's certainly not going to be the last time you are seeing me. In today's video, we are going to discuss about international business, which is very important for UGC NET. It's part of Unit 1 of Paper 2 of UGC NET JRF. So yeah, I'll try to just include those important topics which come in the exams more often, and I'll try to cover up as soon as possible. So stay tuned, watch the video till the end, and do give it a like and also share this video. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, then please do so and also press the bell icon so that you get the notifications when we upload any video. And just motivate us, guys. We are new YouTubers and we need your support. So all it takes is just to subscribe and press the like button and comment, share your feedback if you like really feel doing so, because it doesn't take a lot of your efforts to do all these things, because we are putting in some amount of efforts to make these videos come out for you. So we at least expect you all to give us your valuable feedbacks and your responses to as to how you are uh, finding these videos and how are these helping you. So don't forget to comment and like, and also do share it with all your colleagues who are pursuing UGC NET JRF, and also those who are pursuing MCOM or MA, because international business is part of the course curriculum. So without wasting any further time, let's get started.
So let's first very briefly understand what is international business. So it refers to as those business activities that involve crossing of the national boundaries. So we can say that any kind of inflow or outflow of goods, services, capital, technology across the national borders is termed as international business. That is, you are not only dealing within your own country, but you're also going beyond your national territory and selling your products, services, technology, capital in the other nations. So, international business may occur in different formats. These formats may include movement of goods from one country to another. So it can be physical goods, which you can see, or it can be services as well. I forgot to add the word services of the people who are serving in the other nation. Then it can be contractual agreements that allow foreign firms to use products, services, processes from other nations. That is, it may include licensing, franchising, just as we have franchisees and licensing systems in inland trade. In a similar fashion, when we have contractual agreements with the foreign firms to use the products or services, we are not actually selling them. Selling them is included in the first point, the movement of goods. Here in this contractual agreement, I mean to say, I'll explain that in detail later on, but let me just give you a glimpse that it includes those agreements that allows the other foreign party or other foreign firm to use the products or services or processes of other nations for a period of time, for a royalty or a fee. So this basically includes the transfer of the property to the other nation. Then thirdly, it can be the formation and operation of sales, manufacturing and research and development distribution facilities in foreign markets. It's basically when we allow other countries to invest in our country and carry out the production or sales and R&D process. That is what our Prime Minister always promotes. Come and make in India. So the third point is basically covering the FDI related formats or FDI related channels in which the international business can be carried on. So we can say that international business increases competition in the domestic markets and introduces new opportunities to the foreign markets. So it increases competition for those who are just dealing inside the country, who have not crossed the international borders, and majorly who are small traders and who are not such big companies to go abroad. So it basically increases the competition for them because their market is limited to the country, and there they get competition from the foreign players as well. So it definitely increases competition. It can be a healthy competition because then they are encouraged to be more innovative and efficient in their use of resources. So, international business will certainly help the business firms to improve, innovate, become more efficient, and bring something good into the market. So, thereby, we can get quality products in the market. Then, it also increases new opportunities for those who are going into the foreign markets because going internationally or globally is helping them expand their market. So definitely it's going to be an opportunity for such business firms who are doing international business. Next, for consumers, international business introduces them to a variety of goods and services. So obviously we get more variety, and it may increase our standard of living and increase the exposure to new ideas, devices, products, services, and technologies. So, business firms are constantly innovating and bringing something new to the table every second day, and they are trying hard to compete, to become a market leader, to bring something which the consumer buys. So, like this, we are getting a variety of goods and services, and not only variety, we are getting quality goods and services. So this is helping us to increase our standard of living. I don't think there's much to be explained in this point, so I'll move forward. So now I'm going to discuss the international business strategies. So one of the most famous international strategies was propounded by Bartlett and Goschel in 1989, and this framework which was developed by them has been used to distinguish multiple forms of internationally operating businesses. So basically what they did was they clustered or grouped the businesses operating internationally on two criterias. One, global integration, and second, local responsiveness. So though it may sound that these two are mutually exclusive, but it isn't so. Business strategies may include both these criteria together in a more or less proportion. I'll tell you how. So, basically, what is global integration and local responsiveness? Let us first understand that. So, businesses which are considered as highly globally integrated have the objective to reduce the costs as much as possible by creating economies of scale through a more standardized product offering worldwide. So, here the businesses are trying to gain the advantage of producing more and more, of selling more and more, and creating for themselves the economies of scale production. And they have a standardized product offering worldwide. That is, they are, though, dealing internationally, but through a very standardized production strategy. That is, their products are similar. They are not adapting much to the local needs of the country in which they are doing business. On the other hand, businesses that are highly locally responsive, they have an extra objective to adapt products and services to specific local needs. That is, it is talking about those business firms who are actually adapting or modifying, changing their products and services according to the local demands of that particular nation in which they are producing or selling their products and services. So here basically they are focusing on the STP concept of marketing, which you all must be knowing. And if not, then we'll be having a separate lecture on that as well. So here they are actually segmenting the different markets of different countries. And because of the differences in the culture, traditions, and the customer preferences of different country, these business firms have to adapt their products and services accordingly so that they may be able to position themselves favorably into the minds of those customers. So, like I said, these are not mutually exclusive. That is, they both can be part of one business strategy. So, together, these two criteria can generate four types of strategies that internationally operating businesses can pursue. One is multi-domestic or multinational. The other one is global strategy, transnational, and international strategies. So any of these strategies can be adopted by the businesses depending upon their objectives. So I'll talk first about the international strategy. So international strategy is low on both these aspects, that is, it has low global integration and at the same time low local responsiveness. So businesses adopting such strategy do not feel the need to locally adapt themselves or globally integrate, and the majority of operational activities will be maintained at the headquarter in the home country. I hope you can bifurcate between what is home and host country. So home country is the country where the business is originally from, while the host country is a foreign country in which the business or the person is having the transaction. So international strategy is followed by those companies or those business firms who are aiming to supply the excess of their production to the other country. Basically, they are just wanting to export their excess production to the other countries so as to derive the economies of scale. So here they do not have any aim to open up the subsidiaries or do any FDI in international countries. They just want to operate with their already existing local channels, and they just want to sell and distribute their excess production to the customers all over the world. They do not want to incur any cost. They are self-sufficient and they follow a standardized procedure. So talking about the other type of strategy, that is multi-domestic or multinational strategy, it has low global integration and high local responsiveness. That is, they customize and tailor make their products and services extensively according to the needs and demands of the customers there in the host countries. So few great examples of businesses following multi-domestic strategy can be of Nestle, Starbucks, McDonald's. So these are basically using unique marketing and sales approach for each of the markets in which they operate, and they adapt their products to the local tastes and preferences of the consumers. So, in short, we can say that they are following a unique value proposition for each country in which they deal. So, now talking about the global strategy. So, global strategy has high global integration and low local responsiveness. That is why it is known as global strategy, because it is having high global integration. This strategy is just the opposite of multi-domestic strategy. Here the international business firms, they offer standardized products worldwide, and they have the main aim to reduce their cost per unit, as their primary goal is to maximize their efficiency and lower down their cost. They gain the advantage of economies of scale production. So they follow a standardized production procedure, a standardized supply chain management, and they are highly reliant on the headquarter. That is, they basically operate from their headquarters. They have a very centralized and concentrated process. That is, the subsidiaries which they have in the foreign countries are fully dependent on the central headquarters of their home country. So headquarter, which is there in their home country, centrally operates all the subsidiaries in the foreign countries. All the decisions, all the policies, procedures, all are set by the headquarter or the parent company. So this can be another type of strategy which can be adopted by businesses. So the last type of strategy is transnational strategy. So here both global integration and local responsiveness is high. Okay. So in this, basically what the company do is it aims to maximize its local responsiveness, but also gain the benefits of global integration. So they are both attending to the local needs as well as they are following a very systematized and standardized procedure. So by far this type of strategy is considered as the best strategy because here the businesses are able to create the economies of scale and at the same time they are flexible enough to locally adapt themselves in the marketing and sales activities. The businesses try to create economies at the earlier stages of production and other operational activities. So they try to follow a standardized value chain strategies and at the same time they adopt their marketing and sales strategies as per the needs and preferences of the local customers. So their marketing and sales strategies is basically customized and tailor-made according to the local needs and their production is standardized. So like this, they are able to take advantage of both global integration and local responsiveness in their strategy. And talking about their organizational structure, so it is an integrated or interdependent network structure which they follow of all their subsidiaries across the world. So their headquarters and the local subsidiaries both they are both integrating and they are both interdependent on each other. That is, the subsidiaries have their own strategic roles to play. They have the autonomy to take decisions, but at the same time, they are also dependent upon the headquarters for certain instructions. So we can say that they are following a decentralized procedure, and also their subsidiaries together they exchange whatever knowledge or whatever expertise they have with each other. So like this, they are constantly in connection with each other. Interdependency is there, and great amount of efficiency can be created. Few examples of such type of companies can be Amazon, Apple, Unilever, etc. So these follow transnational approach and thereby they are able to create efficiencies from both global integration as well as local responsiveness. So now we'll talk about the EPRG framework, which was propounded by Howard V. Perlmutter and Wynne and Douglas in 1969. So question from this EPRG framework has frequently been asked in the past NET exams. So in EPRG framework, or you can also call it as EPRG model, there are four management approaches that an organization can take to get more involved in the international business substantially. So basically, they found out that there are four management approaches that can be followed if the company wants to do international business. So this framework can act as a useful tool to utilize if a company does not know yet how to manage business activities between the companies in the local country and the host country, and thereby can make its strategic decisions accordingly. So in EPRG model, E stands for ethnocentric, P for polycentric, R for regiocentric, and G for geocentric. So in ethnocentric approach, the company generally seeks for such foreign markets that have almost the same characteristics as that of the local market. Here local means market in the home country. So the companies do not want to incur much efforts to do research abroad about the host country's market. They just want to follow the same marketing strategies which they have already created in their home domestic markets, and they want to sell their products and services exactly the same way, following the same marketing strategies in the foreign countries as well. So that is why they generally seek to cater to markets which have the same characteristics, because if there'll be wider disparity between the characteristics of the home and the host country, then might be their products will not do well in the foreign market. So they generally look for those markets or those countries which are sharing similar culture or tradition or customer preferences. They want to stick towards their own ethics and culture. So in short, we can say that they follow a home-based approach. So next, coming on to polycentric approach. So this approach is exact opposite of ethnocentric approach. Here, the company considers different markets abroad. So, here the focus is entirely on the different markets the company is serving. They are aiming to identify such countries which are potentially beneficial for them to trade with, and they by no means want to lose. So, what they do is they treat every market as different, they segment their markets, and they adapt as per the need or preferences of that market. I forgot to tell you in the ethnocentric that headquarters are always in the local country and it centrally operates the subsidiaries. And here in polycentric approach, there is a local headquarter and separate office overseas in the host country that manages the operations in that or more countries. So the local offices which are there in the host countries, they also have the autonomy to take their own decisions. So the strategies, the marketing strategies and the operational strategies there in the host country can be different and will depend solely upon the particular market in which they are dealing. So such approach basically follows a decentralized system. So companies that use this approach follows a decentralized decision making system. So this can both be a merit or a demerit. Merit in the sense that the local offices abroad can have the autonomy to take decisions, to formulate the strategies and adapt the products accordingly. On the other hand, if the business operations are not successful, then in that case, it will become very difficult for the main local headquarter to control those activities or operations. So thereby we can say that polycentric approach is host based. And next, talking about the regiocentric approach, there the businesses they create and implement international strategies for the specific regions in which they are marketing their products or services. So here by region I mean the geographical region which they are catering to. So businesses following such approach believe that the markets in the region share the same characteristics of that in the home country. So the countries within the certain geographic region of the business are taken into consideration for international business. So few examples of regional similarities can be like in case of India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, which are very closely aligned with each other. Similarly, it can also be Bhutan and Nepal. So this is an example in which the countries are very closely, located with each other, and they are basically having the same type of regional characteristics. And similarly, NAFTA countries comprising of North America, Mexico, Canada, this can be another example of countries which are regionally sharing the similar characteristics with each other. So this can be another market. So the company can follow this regiocentric approach, targeting the different regions altogether, and this way it can cater to that particular region in a similar manner and can treat that region as one segment and produce and market its products accordingly. So this can, however, be challenging to determine the countries in one region that share the same characteristics. So this might be an issue because approach will be dependent upon very many things. That is the international relations, the law and order of the country which we are including as in one region. So I hope this regiocentric approach is clear and it follows a region-based approach. Next we move on to geocentric approach. Now here the entire world is perceived as a single market, and thereby the businesses strongly they believe that it is possible to utilize one type of strategy for all. That is, we can say that it's like one size fits all kind of approach. So here the companies they try to create products or services in a way that best suit national and international customers. So here they basically want to reduce their operational and manufacturing cost and want to produce homogeneous and identifiable products and services in order to integrate them for worldwide operational efficiency. They want to create operational efficiency worldwide. And that is why I'm saying that it is helping them to reduce the operational cost and gain the economies. So basically, geocentric approach is very similar to transnational strategy, which I already told you, because it combines the polycentric and ethnocentric approaches. That is, it is both home based and host based. That is, it does not only aims to follow their rhetoric traditional strategies elsewhere, they also want to adapt according to the host countries. So they are actually beautifully blending both the characteristics of both these approaches. So with this, I wrap up, and I'm looking forward to get some good amount of likes and shares for this video. And also please subscribe to our channel if you haven't, and do not forget to press the bell icon. It's very, very important, because unless and until you'll press the bell icon, you'll not get the notification. So do press it and stay connected with Career File. Thank you.